In the shadows of great NFL players, there's always an athlete fighting, clawing, and working hard to be the main man, the go-to guy in their position. Some don't make it, some don't get enough of the spotlight, and others disappear completely. Here are 10 of the most underrated players in the NFL right now who deserve the recognition. And you won't believe who is at number 1. But let's work our way and start at number 10 with the Chicago Bears starting running back David Montgomery, who is in his 4th season in the NFL. The 5'11", 224-pound running back has only broken the 1,000-yard rushing yard barrier once, but he has delivered consistently throughout his time in Chicago with a Bears team that showed very little promise. For the most part, the Bears organization had to endure the coaching failures of Matt Nagy, which really slowed down the opportunities that Montgomery should have had. But despite the blundering head coach, David Montgomery had 21 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns in 3 seasons. This year, under a new coaching regime, Montgomery was admittedly having a slow start, but Sunday night, under the bright lights of Lambeau Field, the running back rushed for a total of 122 yards from 15 carries. Those numbers are impressive, considering that the Bears were down big against the Packers, and that Montgomery decided to snatch the spotlight off his talented quarterback, Justin Fields, and put the entire Bears organization on his shoulders. Montgomery had the most offensive yards for his team by a country mile. David Montgomery is not getting the attention he deserves, and the entire NFL nation should know about it. At number 9, there's another player who isn't receiving the requisite praise and attention that he merits, and it is none other than Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The 5'11", 200-pound wide receiver is in his 5th season in the NFL and in his 1st with the Jaguars. Now, you might think that just because a wide receiver is with the Jaguars that they won't get the media attention, and you would be right because the team is not considered to be contenders. But Christian Kirk is proving them wrong with his excellent play so far this season. In his first game, he was targeted 12 times and had 6 catches for 117 yards. No touchdown, but no problem, because in his second game, Kirk had 6 targets, caught 6 balls for 78 yards, and had 2 touchdowns in a win against the divisional favorite Indianapolis Colts. He's already establishing himself as the go-to guy in the organization that is making waves and challenging the skeptics. The reason why Kirk is underappreciated is that when he was with the Cardinals for 4 seasons, the team had established and recognizable wide receivers such as DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Green. He couldn't quite break out from the shadow, but the GM of the Jaguars, Trent Baalke, saw Kirk's potential and felt that he could be the star wide receiver on their exciting young team. Kirk is repaying the faith so far. Another person who is giving back and making the most of the opportunity is running back of the Arizona Cardinals, James Conner. He is at number 8 because people gave up on him during his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Granted, the 6'1", 233-pound running back did appear to be an injury-prone player with some major concerns over his game durability. There were lofty expectations placed on the young shoulders of James Conner, and due to his unfortunate disposition of being a big back, he got hit a lot and his production suffered. But Conner seems to be undergoing a renaissance in his do-over with the Cardinals. Last season, in a pass-first offense, James Conner had 15 rushing touchdowns, the most in his NFL career. He also tied his career receiving touchdowns in that very same season. The Cardinals were so happy with Conner that they made him the go-to guy in their ground offense for the 2022 season. Despite the rushing touchdown in the first game blowout loss to the Chiefs, the Week 2 game against the Raiders, Conner's injuries have returned. It is a minor setback given everything that this strong running back has been through in his 6 seasons in the league. James Conner definitely deserves the spotlight and will receive the recognition that he merits. At number 7 is another player who had to deal with a tremendous amount of pressure and expectation and hasn't quite lived up to it. It's Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders. The 6', 210-pound wide receiver is in his 4th season in the NFL and has accumulated a lot of receiving yards in his last 2 seasons. He averages 1,085.5 yards but has only scored 9 touchdowns in those 2 seasons combined. That is the worrying sign for most fans who want to see McLaurin in the end zone celebrating and leading his team to victory. He had 5 touchdowns last season in 17 games. Hardly the number you would expect your star wide receiver to put up, but his lack of touchdown production has a caveat. He has never had a decent quarterback. Terry McLaurin is averaging major numbers with below-average players in the quarterback position. This is what makes his stats so incredible and why it makes him one of the most underrated and underappreciated wide receivers in the NFL. Number 6 is another underappreciated and underrated NFL athlete by the name of A.J. Dillon. The backup running back of the Green Bay Packers is the understudy to lead running back Aaron Jones and isn't getting the praise he deserves. The 6', 247-pound running back is in his third season with the Packers and has finally broken somewhat the barrier and pecking order in the offense. It's sort of a mixture of talent combined with a lack of depth in the receiving core that has elevated A.J. Dillon's productivity. This season, he has featured in 2 games and scored 1 rushing touchdown off of 106 yards. Dillon can run, but he's being used as a pass-catching back and has been targeted so far 9 times this season. He has caught the ball 6 times for 52 yards, which is pretty amazing for a number 2 back. When he gets the starting job, A.J. Dillon will be an unstoppable force, but for now, he is deeply underrated. At number 5, there's another underrated player by the familiar name of Leonard Fournette. In his 6th season, what does the 6', 228-pound running back have to do to get some love and appreciation from the NFL nation? He should be considered as one of the most elite running backs, but he's kept in the shadows of Tom Brady and the passing offense. Not this year, where Fournette already has 192 yards on the ground from just 2 games. No touchdowns yet, but they will come, and once they do, the world will remember that he was once a guy who twice rushed for over 1,000 yards in a season and has a career total of 35 touchdowns from 65 games. It is jaw-dropping how no one is giving Fournette the credit he deserves. At number 4, it is wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, Tee Higgins. The 6'4", 215-pound wide receiver is overshadowed by his teammate, the phenom that is Ja'Marr Chase. No one really talks about Higgins in the way that they really should. The wide receiver is in his 3rd season in the NFL and is expected to play a role in an offense that is led by a quarterback who took this team to the Super Bowl. Last season, Higgins had 1,091 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. The season before that, he had 908 receiving yards and again, 6 touchdowns. There is a level of consistency at the highest order which deserves the reciprocal respect and recognition that Higgins isn't getting. Here are the top 3. At number 3 is wide receiver Keenan Allen, who has had a marvelous career and is in his 10th season in the NFL, sticking with the same team, the Chargers. A total of 8,601 receiving yards and 48 touchdowns, and he isn't quite done yet. Allen is the primary receiver for the Chargers, and they have a quarterback and an offensive system that will only help him boost those incredible numbers. No one is talking about him or giving him the praise that he merits because the Chargers haven't been to an AFC Championship game since 1994. At number 2, the second most underrated player in the NFL right now is another Cincinnati Bengal, running back Joe Mixon. So when you think of elite running back, the name Joe Mixon would probably never reach your lips. The 6'1", 220-pound running back is in his 6th season in the NFL and has had 3 seasons where he rushed for over 1,000 yards. Last season, he had 13 touchdowns and 1,205 yards on the ground. And yet, no one cares to mention Mixon or considers him to be an elite running back when he clearly is. It is so offensive, but not as egregious as the number 1 most underrated player in the NFL. The Minnesota Vikings quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Cousins is the guy that is making Justin Jefferson look great. He is the guy who is leading the Vikings to victories over divisional rivals like the Packers. Cousins is in his 11th season, and over the last 2 seasons, he has had 68 passing touchdowns and 20 interceptions. That is a ratio that's above average and incredibly valued in the NFL. But Cousins is not getting the love, respect, and recognition that he deserves in the most important position in the NFL. So who do you think is the most underrated player in the NFL? Please let us know in the comments below. But before you go, if you still want to watch some awesome NFL content like this, go ahead and watch the next video that will pop up on your screen.